Welcome back to the Liberty Block, the Conservatarian Exchange, for episode 300 consecutive episodes every week, I believe, for like 5, 6 years. Ed P can do the math because he's smart. And we have Ed Maslish, Ed Powell, and Dick here. Thank you very much for being with us. And it's going to be a lot of fun today.
Well, we'd be remiss if we didn't remember to mention our founding members, Stephen, who is celebrating Passover, and Jody. Hopefully they'll
Yes,
be
sir.
back soon.
Yeah. Didn't my dad invite everyone to the 300 celebration, or because things got moved around, we don't even know what's going on with that?
We're going to do the 300th celebration in 2 weeks, I think.
Okay. Sorry. So to backtrack, this is not episode 300. This is episode 299.5. And
Something like that,
in a
yes.
week or two after Pesach, we'll do episode 300 celebration, maybe. Um, but to kick things off, I want to play maybe the funniest video in world history. I hope you guys have seen it. It's, I think, some transgender activists in Worcester, Massachusetts, near where I used to live. I'll try to share the screen video, although the audio usually doesn't come through. But have any of you guys not seen it?
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh my gosh, Ed, well, I hope the audio comes through. If
I've
if
seen so many that
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, and I'm gonna try to play it and share the screen. Give me 1 second. Pretty much, even the Worcester leftist city council, there's something they're not defending against Trump. Trump threatened to withhold a few dollars from Worcester, probably for some kind of grant, and the city council is not going to stand up to them. So the transgenders came out in force, and some of them are drag queens or other LGBT. I'm not sure, but they came out, and here's what they have to say to the city council. Let's see if we can play this video. All right, producer, play it.
You should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
You guys hear it?
Yes, I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want city to be the city.
Can you guys hear it or no?
Safe space.
yeah,
You better
low.
trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
Threatening to shoot
I'm
up.
shaking right now. I don't want to be here. I'm sorry. Am I taking too long pleading for my life?
You remember how many children I have and that 2 of them are trans.
I speak as both the B and the T in the LGBT.
I'm multiply disabled. I have Ehlers-Danlos.
So it goes on like that for like 5 minutes. I mean, some of these people are legitimately comedians to the level of Deborah Fauché on X. I know Ed Powell knows her because he's following that kind of stuff. She's just hilarious, but she's a satirist, I believe. But these people, I believe, are actually being serious.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the trans people are nobody's attacking them. I think that the idea that that bathrooms and especially children's bathrooms should be based on one's plumbing, not on one's self-identification. After all, if a bathroom goes wrong, who do you call? You call a plumber, right? So it's all about plumbing. So bathrooms should be based on plumbing for kids, at least. You know, for private businesses, they can make up whatever, rules they want. For kids, the bathrooms should be based on plumbing. And I think that is not a quote attack on trans people. That's just a recognition of certain realities. And as for adult trans people, which and some of them said that they were drag queens, and some of them said they were trans or gay or bi. It's like there is no discrimination, in fact, against them at all. In fact, I think that there is a celebration of them every time there is a pride parade or anything like that, which many times gets into the grotesque or obscene. So the whole thing is just mockery of the idea of justice, which again is what social justice actually is, whether it's applied to trans people or minorities or migrants or whatever. It's special pleading on their part for special privileges rather than just the primary goal of America was to leave people alone as long as they are respecting everyone else's ability to go about their own lives. And the LGBT community has not left us alone at all. Now, I know plenty of LGBT people who are perfectly nice human beings who live their own lives, and but these activists are anti-American in their in your faceness.
Must we devote time to this mental illness?
No, I was talking.
Now we can't
Lost
hear
you,
all
Lou.
that.
No
Your
sound, Lou.
microphone went out. Got to step up the game, Alu.
Nope.
I think the good Lord is striking you down for having brought that subject up as our opening story.
Well, while he's trying to figure out sound, going right along the same lines, I was listening to the news this morning, and you now have fully 1/3 of Americans who think socialism is the way to go.
I don't even know whether they even know what socialism is, you know?
I mean, I know that number has been increasing over time, but 1/3 doesn't sound much higher than I was thinking it is. I mean, I think that's a pretty relatively stable number, is it not?
Actually, no, it's been going up. And the troubling thing is that so much of it is among these newer generations that, quite frankly, as somebody just said, they don't have any idea what it really is.
But the thing is, those young generations that are so left and socialist, most of them are still in university, still in school. They're not paying taxes. They're not working. I look at the No Kings rally and so many of these leftist activist engagements, and they're all aging boomers. And when I watch it, it makes me think that if we can just serve and stay not surrender ground for the next, I don't know, 15, 20 years. I think they're all going to be dead, and we're going to be able to really romp going forward. I mean, I'm not really that worried about the young. I mean, yes, there's a problem with them right now, but at some point they're going to start paying taxes, and they're not going to want to pay the taxes that are required to support the policies they want.
Well, thank you for bringing up taxes, because it's right in line with the topic we're on here at the moment. And I added a couple things to the list there, a couple of items to the list. I tried to copy some
Taxation
stuff.
is theft. I just want to make sure my mic still works. It still works?
Yep.
All right.
Only when you want to interrupt.
It was on mute. Sorry. Carry on.
I tried to capture some stuff from a fairly lengthy piece the other day, but didn't get all of it pulled up some stories. So I almost don't know where to start. We've got New York. So we talked, I think, last week about Kathy Hochul and the mockery she's making of herself with the 2022 video where she's telling all the rich conservatives to get out of the state. We don't need your kind here. And now they're trying to bring them back. And now you've got new wealth tax proposals for New York going down into the millionaires. You got one I added in here. California has proposed a bill. It's on the ballot for November coming up. That's the billionaire tax.
Did it make it on the ballot, Dick, or are they still getting signatures for it?
What I saw said it was going to be on the ballot in November.
Gotcha.
It's a 5% tax on billionaires, but it's not on income. It's on wealth.
Yeah.
So it's a wealth tax. But it goes further when you start digging into all these things. And let's talk about the problems that they have with it. Already, so they assumed, based on the number of billionaires in California, that they were going to get $100 billion off of this wealth tax. I said 100 billion. So already, by those billionaires that have left the state, they're already down to about 40 billion of that 100 billion that they expected to get. And then there's others that are going to, that have already said they're leaving if this goes in. And the really interesting thing when you dig through all the numbers, once those billionaires depart the state, it will actually cause somewhere between a $3.5 and $6 billion deficit in the taxes that they're already collecting.
You know what I think is interesting, and I haven't done a big search for this, but right now we're talking about how blue state tax policies are driving the tax base out of their states, and there is an analog in recent history. In 1960, Detroit was one of the wealthiest cities in the country. It was the place where all the automobiles were created. A lot of auto parts companies were in Detroit, and they started having some bad tax policies. They had the 1967 riots, and by 2010, a mere 50 years later, 2 generations, the city was a disaster. It was in bankruptcy, and I wonder if there's any studies out there that are comparing the rate of decline that Detroit saw with the rate of decline that's going on now and the rate of exodus. I just am not aware of it, but I think that would be an interesting comparison to see.
Well, I think there are studies. I mean, that's some of the numbers that are in here. And one of the things that they've added on in California that they want to do is they want to extend these taxes for 10 years after you leave the state.
Yeah, I mean, I actually lived in California. I went to college out there and lived there for 4 years in the late 80s. And it was a beautiful place in the late 80s. And I haven't been back since the early 2000s, but even by 2000, 2005, it wasn't the place that I remembered. And I understand that there's selective things put on TV, but when I see all the tents and all the homeless, and it looks like an absolutely awful place now. I mean, and I was only, I left there 36 years ago. I mean,
It's been longer ago since I left there.
So I mean, the question in my mind is, how long is it going to take for the bottom to fall out in California, in New York, in Illinois, in Massachusetts?
Bottom's already falling out in California. That's why they're going after this wealth tax.
Can I talk for 1 second about how much I love wealth taxes?
Sure.
We want to hear it.
So I wrote this article that I'm sharing the screen now, right? This is an article I wrote. Hopefully you guys can see it and the audience can see it. I wrote this like a few years ago about my friend Liz Warren, and she purposely posts these tweets, these quotes that I think are willfully disingenuous, saying top 99%, the top 1% pay like 1% of their wealth and taxes. And people hear that, lay people think, oh, they're only paying 1% taxes or 0.001% taxes. That's horrible. But she sneaks in the word wealth instead of income. And unless you really think about it and maybe have a bit of like knowledge or background in like finance or taxes or law, you don't recognize that. You just wouldn't recognize slipping in, conflating wealth for income. And that's like a tremendous conflation, obviously. Total wealth is total net worth, which includes their stocks and all of their assets, their companies, their property, everything, all their savings, their entire companies. So Elon Musk is worth $1 trillion now. Taxing 1% of his wealth would be like $1 billion. But if he had to liquidate $1 billion right now, or sorry, $10 billion if it's 1%. If you have to liquidate that, he would have to sell so much Tesla stock, it would kind of crash the company and crash his other companies. And if Bezos had to sell one, or 10% of his Amazon stock and everything else, Amazon would crash and crumble and go
Of course,
bankrupt.
the point is not to force Elon to sell a stock, because even our Congress and the Democrats understand that that would be bad. The point would be to allow the payment in kind, which would allow the government, whether it's the state of New York or the federal government or the city of New York, to accumulate stock in these companies, ownership in these companies. That's the goal of the socialists. Yes, they want
Ownership in
money.
the companies doesn't pay for the government grocery stores. It doesn't pay for the rent on those apartments.
They're not interested in any of that. That's their talking points. They're interested in socialism, which is government ownership of the means of production. And the wealth tax is not intended to pay for grocery stores. It's intended to accumulate capital. Now, right now, it's illegal to pay taxes in anything other than cash. But any wealth tax will obviously crash the market, and that's bad. And the Democrats might even get voted out, although you never know given the voting system. So they would, the obviously next step is to change the law so that they can be paid in kind. And that is what their goal is.
Has there been any evidence of that, or is that speculation that they would change the law to allow for in-kind payments?
Well, I mean, how hard is it to know that if Elon was, the amount of stock that's traded every day in any given company is very, very small. And if Elon had to sell, a large chunk of stock, it would drive the price down.
Liz Warren probably
Everybody
knows that.
knows that.
She's evil. She's lying. But the average Democrat voter probably does not have. They really have an IQ.
Democrat voters don't know anything, and they're not being told anything. I'm not telling you that I'm saying that the end goal of this is not to raise money for government grocery stores. That's ridiculous.
It's to crash the market and destroy the world.
Well, I don't think it's to crash the market either, because the oligarchs who run the country are heavily invested in the market. It's to accumulate capital. That's what it is.
So let's throw out a couple more then. Washington State has got a new millionaire's tax they're trying to put in.
Well, that's an income tax. That's an income tax, right?
Yep, 9.9% income tax.
I thought they had a wealth tax in Washington. Isn't that why
they have
left?
Property tax?
Isn't that why Howard Schultz moved out?
So they have property tax in Washington, and they tried to make it progressive, if you will. The more you own, the more you pay, the higher percentage you pay. But the state Supreme Court years ago ruled that that was property. The money is property, and therefore everybody had to be taxed at the same rate. So now they're trying to do this with a different type of tax to get around this whole property issue of it having to be equal for everybody. And that's this new 9.9% millionaire's tax.
But now, I thought that there was no income tax. Isn't there no income tax in the state of Washington?
Yes, there's no income tax in the state of Washington. This is their attempt to get around it. And I read that article, but could you please explain what their attempted justification?
They've got a budget shortfall. It's all about...
No, not that. But I mean, the legal justification, they're not allowed to charge different rates on different people. So they figured out a way to get around it. I read that. I've forgotten it because my mind is elsewhere. But what is that?
Yeah, because the other was property in this case, because your property is all kinds of things that you hold, including money. In the state Supreme Court, as a function of property, ruled that you couldn't tax people, take more of one person's property as a percentage than of another person's, that was unconstitutional. So by going to this millionaire's tax, this income tax, it's a whole different, it gets around, or they think they're going to get around this state Supreme Court ruling. And then you finally have one more that I put in the packet. Elizabeth Warren trying to bring up her tax package again. And wants to tax a wealth tax 2% for anything over 50 million, 1% for anything over a billion, and charge a 40% exit tax for these folks that decide they want to try and preserve their wealth and leave the country.
Okay, are people really being paid $1 billion a year cash, or am I correct that people like Elon Musk are getting mostly stock?
They're getting mostly stock. This is a wealth tax that Warren is going after. Not an income
Okay, sorry, I
tax,
was
a
reading
wealth
this.
tax.
I'm still reading the Washington article. I'm behind you.
Okay.
I'm not as
Yeah.
quick as you guys. This says income,
Right.
but my girl Liz Warren, um, yeah, well, again, if those people do that, and if that's the wealth they consider the stock, I guess, part of their net worth, so they would tax that. Yeah, remember, go back to what
Yeah.
Ed Powell and I were all saying of they'll have to liquidate everything or give all their stock to the government, which is fascism, communism.
Yes.
Cool.
That's exactly what it is. And it's totally going to backfire. Like I said, the billionaires are leaving California already. There's more that have already said they are leaving, and it's actually going to create they're going to lose more than they're going to bring in.
And they're fleeing Europe too when they try to put these taxes in. I know that they're fleeing the United Kingdom.
Yep.
Are they fleeing the taxes, or are they fleeing something else in the United Kingdom?
No, you can't talk about that, Ed Maslish. We can no, you
I
can't even
didn't talk about
insinuate.
it. I
What?
didn't mention anything.
You can't insinuate anything to do with demographics of certain people who are 1 billion times more likely to commit violent crimes like rape and murder. No, we definitely
A
can't mention
billion
that.
times. I mean, we're talking about a billionaire's tax, right?
Yep.
Maybe that's just a different kind of billionaire tax.
Yep.
So yeah, it's, this whole idea that we want to create a socialist country, it's just we're going down a road that is not so scary for me. I'm going to be dead before they get there, but for future generations, it is not looking terribly bright at the moment, unless somebody can correct me.
All right, here's the plan. California, the rich people, the few millionaires, billionaires still in California and leftist states like Washington, New York, New Jersey, they're gonna flee. Newsom is gonna try to do the exit tax BS, which I'm sure is unconstitutional for a lot of reasons, but whatever. But also, anyway, they're gonna go to Florida and Texas and other states. Those states will secede and be totally sovereign, meaning that Governor Newsom's arm stretching out to them will be even more unfeasible because they'll be different countries. And then everyone's happy.
I've
Well,
got a different take, Alu. I think I think that we are living right now in a time when Donald Trump is reshaping the world order, and he's reshaping the American economy and the world economy. And it's hard to see now because there are so many people that think that the Republicans are going to lose the midterm elections. But I think that the Republicans are going to have a successful midterm election, and I think Trump is going to continue to succeed, and he's going to be rewarded, and his party is going to be rewarded. And over the next few years, we're going to see more and more positive policy results and policy shifts as American economic dominance spreads and as the world becomes a safer place militarily. So I don't. I think that we're on the cusp. Trump calls it the golden age. I don't know if it's quite a golden age, but I think that he's heading in. I think that his description is in the right direction, and I think that's where we're going. And I think that the same way that Reagan's influence lasted a long time after he left the presidency, I think that Trump's influence is going to last a lot longer than his 4 years right now last.
Well, the only problems I see with that is the states are growing further and further apart, the blue states versus red states. And when you look across Europe, I made a comment earlier today. I know some of you saw it, that half of Europe is going to be within the next 20 years another radical Islamist nation or a collection of Islamist nations. They're
You know
hard
what?
on the road there now. And that's what's driving their
Trump-
policies
But
right now
Trump
with
is
regard
already
to
talking
Trump.
about the need to separate from them. I mean, he just in the last 24 hours, he's talking about withdrawing the U.S. out of NATO.
Yep.
He's previously talked about getting out of the UN and creating this other peace organization, the Trump Organization, or whatever he calls it, Trump Organization for Peace, or whatever. I don't remember the name of it, but I just see a reordering of the world right now, and I think that Trump is going to succeed at what he's trying to do. I mean, if he fails, he's going to fail spectacularly, and all of your doom and gloom about socialism in 20 years is probably going to be accelerated. But I don't think he's going to fail, and I think that socialism is going to be on the defensive once the Trump boom and the Trump economy sets in the next few months and year.
So you say that, but if we look at the folks on the left, gas prices were down. Now, granted, they've come up since we started this activity in Iran, started taking Iran apart. Gas prices are up a little over $1 a gallon.
Yeah.
They're under what they were during Biden's time.
Yep.
But this whole time, when prices have been down or when the rate of climb has been declined, Democrats have been beating the war drums across the board. Everything's too expensive. It's all Trump's fault. The prices are going up. It's too much.
I mean, it's just noise. They're complete liars. But
it's
higher gas prices have been a Democrat policy position for 30 to 40 years.
I understand that, but when it's the drumbeat of nearly every outlet out there, that's what Americans hear. Most of the waking
right now,
hours.
Americans hear that Maduro is no longer the leader of Venezuela. In the next couple of weeks or less, we're going to hear that the mullahs are no longer in charge in Iran. We're going to hear that the Castros and the communists are no longer in charge of Cuba. I think they're going to start hearing some things that make them say, you know what, maybe this Trump guy's not so bad.
That's good, but honestly, the average 20-year-old, 30-year-old, 40-year-old in the United States, I feel like even if they know Maduro and the Iranians, mullahs, whatever, very well, and Castro, we don't like them, but them being deposed, is that even on the top 50 of our priorities that make us happy? People here would want, they want less regulation, lower healthcare costs. They want no flock cameras and more privacy. They want better prices, less inflation, better economy.
Trump is going to bring
whatever.
troops home and have a peace dividend. That's
Yeah.
going to make a lot of people happy.
Yeah, money. But Maduro not being there, even to me, like I don't like the guy, but is it going to make me so happy that I'm going to bow down to Trump now and say, that's improving my life? Now, if that affects oil prices, yeah, maybe if the United States takes over the oil,
you don't have to bow down to him.
But like, I don't know. I think I don't agree with some others that it's such a big priority for so many Americans. Mike Proto, what say you? Welcome. We'll excuse you for being late if you answer this question
Better
properly.
late than never. You're gonna put me right on the spot. Oh no.
Yes, sir. How important is it to the average American? I know there's no average, but that Maduro and maybe potentially the Castros and hopefully soon the Iranian leaders will be no longer in charge or alive. Is it something that really a lot of Americans care about, or a lower priority?
I think it's probably going to matter more to people like us than people on the left. So it's just going to be split the way everything's split. And they hate Trump, and it doesn't matter what he does. And look at who they're aligning themselves. They're aligned with Islam. They're aligned with terrorists, or I mean, so I don't think. If anything, the left would probably be upset that the Castros are gone or the Iranians are gone. So.
Right, but the people that aren't paying attention,
there is no average person. There is no average.
The non-political people that are just, caught up in the winds, they're going to hear that Trump knocked all these dictators out of office and out of power. And I just don't think that any of them are going to take this no kings stuff seriously. I think and another thing along these lines, Trump is better than any politician I've ever seen at continuing to campaign throughout his term. There are commercials,
He
there
literally
are
campaigns 24/7. That's all he ever. Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
he's going to make sure people know about it. He holds press conferences on a daily basis.
Rallies all day, every day. It's amazing.
It's he's going to get that message out if he has to force it through, and it's a real message. It's not just propaganda. And I think it's gonna seep into the minds of the the casual non-political people in the country.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's the left, the no kings people. No matter what he does, he's going to be a king to them. So it doesn't matter. It's ultimately about some of these independent voters and how they're thinking. I mean, it always comes down to 50 plus one.
I do
That's all that
wonder,
matters.
though, that the people who think that he is, doing something that a king would do. Certainly attacking Iran is that, but that's another story. But like some of these domestic policies, like kicking out illegal aliens, like that's the law. I mean, and so you can like disagree with the law. I happen to agree with the law, but you could disagree with the law and you say, we need to have the law changed. But saying he's a quote unquote king, he's behaving with arbitrary power when in fact all he's doing is enforcing the law, and he's not even aggressively enforcing the law. Let's be honest.
If
That's
he were a
crazy.
king, we'd be a lot better off on domestic policy.
I guess. I mean, we are a lot
If he were a
better
king,
off.
he would like butt into people's lives and say people can't build ballrooms and stuff. Like people not related to him, they would say, no, you can't build a ballroom with your own money, and just stop them legally. Like that's something a crazy king might do. That would be just crazy.
I mean, the domestic agenda is pretty much at a standstill. And we don't even really hear anything about the tariffs at this point or anything. Like there's only so much he can do. And
Well,
on the
I think what Ed brought up is interesting. If you look at all of the executive orders, I'd like somebody to point out one executive order that he's issued that has actually been in violation of a law.
Yeah, I mean, even the one that was today, which is arguing about the birthright citizenship, the case against birthright citizenship is so absolutely clear when you read the when you read the discussions in the Senate when they were passing the 14th Amendment. The idea that the people who passed the 14th Amendment and the people who ratified it in the state legislatures thought at the time that what they were doing is any Chinese tourist that goes to the Federated States of Micronesia to have a baby, that baby then becomes an American citizen and can apply to bring their entire extended family over within when they reach the age of majority. I mean, they would say you're absolutely out of your mind. That was definitely not the intent of the framers or the people who ratified it. The point of the 14th Amendment was to give citizenship to ex-slaves, to freedmen. And it wasn't to allow every birth tourist or every illegal alien to come in here, have a baby, and decide that they now have a right to welfare. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. And yet it does seem like the Supreme Court was very skeptical of this argument, which is ridiculous. I mean, the argument
Not
is
ridiculous. I
possibly
hate
be
when you.
clear.
Why do you?
It couldn't
It's
possibly
not
be more
absolutely
clear.
The intent may be clear. I don't think the intent is so clear, but even if it is, the plain words of the 14th Amendment are equally clear in the other direction.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
No, they're not.
Ed, point blank, if an illegal alien commits a crime in the United States, is he subject to the jurisdiction of a criminal court? Yes or no?
That's not what the
Yes or
framers
no?
meant.
Yes
That's
or
not
no?
what the
Yes, he is,
no,
but let
it's
me
not
throw this
yes
right
or
back
no.
at you.
It's
That's
not what the
jurisdiction.
framers intended when they
That's
wrote that
jurisdiction.
line.
That's what the law is.
The
Okay,
framers,
is that
intended a
same
different
illegal
statute.
alien
that
subject to the draft?
clause that clause means what the framers intended it to mean, and
No,
it
it means what it says.
no,
You
Yeah.
don't get to go into people's
because
minds.
things change. The meaning of word
The meaning
changes
of
over
jurisdiction hasn't
150
changed.
years.
The meaning of the
No,
word just
what
So-
they meant at the time and what they said in the debates and what they sold to the public was having exclusive jurisdiction to the United
and they
States.
should have
And
left
they
the
did
original
not
language.
mean
The
they did
original
not
language was
mean-
not subject to the jurisdiction of any foreign power. That would have been what you say. They
Well, yeah, I
changed
mean,
that
but
language.
we all understand because we've all studied the constitutional, the Constitutional Convention, that when the Constitution was written, it was given to a group of people who dealt with the style, right? And what they ended up doing by the style committee with our actual Constitution was change the meaning of a bunch of things by trying to change the style. But so you have to say, okay, well, they changed the style, but what did they really mean by that? Because they didn't mean to change the
You don't
meaning.
get into what
meant
they
to
really
change the
meant.
style.
It's
The point is
basic.
the 14th Amendment, you do not, any given word or clause is interpreted in light of what the framers and the people who ratify it meant, not what
No,
our common
that's not
modern
true.
understanding.
Ed,
You
you're
know,
not a lawyer. You're totally wrong. That's not
So
the way law is interpreted. Okay.
Let me
You don't
ask
get
you,
to
Ed.
intent. You do not get to the intent of the drafter unless there's an ambiguity.
And there is an ambiguity.
There is ambiguity.
There's
Yeah.
no
Well, let me
ambiguity.
ask you this, Ed. Let me ask you this.
Go
You
ahead.
used a crime that somebody killed somebody, did something else
Right.
as subject to jurisdiction.
Yep.
Are those same illegal aliens subject to the draft?
Or voting, or jury service, or any of the other aspects
They're
of
subject.
citizenship.
It depends on the local jurisdiction. If New York
If
State
they're
gives,
subject to the jurisdiction thereof, then they have to be.
Yeah, I think that's a good
by
point.
law
They're subject to like
eligible
criminal
for the
laws
draft.
probably, but the other stuff probably not.
well, I don't understand the question. What are you asking, Dick? Are they
So
subject to
you're
the
saying
draft? I mean,
we're arguing about the meaning of subject to the jurisdiction.
right.
Anybody that comes here, any visitor is subject to our criminal laws.
Not
But
true.
jurisdiction-
Not true. Diplomats are not. Diplomats
They aren't
are
a
not.
visitor.
One exception.
No,
They're a
diplomats
diplomat.
aside, diplomats
They
are a
are
totally
visitors.
special class. But other people who visit, they're subject to like murder laws, but other laws that are not criminal, they're probably not subject to most other stuff.
Of course they are. They're
Are they subject to the
jurisdiction.
draft?
When you go, just like if we go over and visit France or England or whatever, we're subject to the jurisdiction of their laws.
They're
We do
criminal
something there.
laws.
Doesn't make us citizens.
It doesn't make us citizens, but we're talking about what the 14th Amendment says about people born subject to
Yeah.
the jurisdiction thereof.
I mean,
Subject to the
this
jurisdiction
is the same.
thereof.
It's the
And-
same
and
thing with.
I'm-
It's this.
I'll just
It's
say, I'm arguing forcefully against you guys, even though I want the law to be what you guys say. I think you're
The law
right
is
about
what
the
we
right
say.
policy is.
I think,
What?
I think,
Yeah.
Why,
I think
that's
Ed-
why
this-
that's
Ed
why
was- this is-
Indians weren't given citizenship until 1926.
But
This is
Indians
the
were
same
born
as
in
our-
America.
Because
It's the same
Indians
thing
were
as our
treated like-
war powers argument.
Indians
that-
were treated like diplomats. That's why they were subject to a foreign power. They were considered not
There are
just subject
hundreds
to
of
foreign,
thousands.
they
There
were
are
foreign
hundreds of
power.
There are hundreds of thousands of them inside the United States.
No, the Native
And-
Americans
Right,
were a
just
different
like
class.
there
It
are
was a whole
diplomats
different thing, a
inside the
whole different
United
arrangement.
States.
Right.
And remember, the whole Juan Kim Ark thing was also decided incorrectly, but it was about Chinese permanent resident, the children of Chinese
Right.
permanent residents, not Chinese illegal aliens, but Chinese permanent residents. So, I mean, the current law is that the sons and daughters of illegal aliens are not citizens. It's just been ignored for like ever since the 60s.
I think you're
It's
wrong.
just been ignored.
And not only do I think you're wrong, I'll go this far. The Supreme Court, if they get to the merits of the case and they don't deal with some procedural technicality, if they get to the merits, there will be at least 7, and I believe it's going to be 9 votes against the Trump administration. Not because, and that won't make me happy, but That's what the law. That's
Okay,
the way the
what's
law
the
is
current
gonna-
posture of the case, Ed? That's the first thing, Ed.
Well, it was oral arguments for today, and Trump
Yeah.
actually went to the Supreme Court and
Yes.
stood in
you
the
know what?
gallery.
That's awesome that he did that. I really.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah,
for like an injunction or
congratulations.
something, or is
I
that for the actual
I
case?
gotta
Now,
tell
one
you,
thing, gentlemen, it's T minus 45 seconds to the Artemis launch.
Okay,
Why don't we take a break?
I am.
your excuse
I am
for 2
going to.
minutes.
Well, I can. Yeah, I can share it if you
share the
want.
live feed. Why not?
Um,
I'm gonna keep going because I have plenty of
Yeah.
I
complaints.
can't.
You
I
know
can't
what?
share the live. I can't share the live feed.
I got to tell you, I go back to when the Obamacare issue was before the Supreme Court, and I was at Americans for Prosperity, and I remember my state director, Steve Lonigan, saying, we better get a bunch of buses up there and go. And we had gone for, I don't know how many other times for healthcare. And you know what? He was right, because the Supreme Court is a political body and they're influenced by politics. And you should, honestly, there should have been a strong showing of people that want this reverse, right? That don't
No, they
believe in
want
they
they
don't
want the
believe in
executive
birth.
order upheld.
Correct, exactly. And it wasn't done. I mean, I'm glad Trump went.
Okay, I gotta
I
step
don't know
away.
that I don't know if it's going to have that kind of an effect. But honestly, I'm sitting here and I'm saying that that's what should have happened today while they were hearing this. They should have seen a freaking crowd, a massive crowd of people outside that wanted this thing, this birthright citizenship gone.
Can I
But
say two things?
I don't want to get into all this. I think this is similar to our war powers thing. I know, Ed, that you're very much of the textualism and just what the words are say in the law, whatever it is. I can't agree with that. I think you need to look at the original meaning and the context of when things were adopted. I think it matters. Go ahead, Alu.
Two quick things. I think we'd all agree that like with the Second Amendment too, the amendment in our ideal world could be amended to be more clear. I know both sides will say it's clearly for what they think it is, but I do think it's kind of ambiguous. For instance,
What's ambiguous about subject to the jurisdiction thereof?
well, like the whole debate we just had a few minutes ago, it was not it was written for the free slaves. They weren't thinking of this issue in the future of Democrats and Republicans letting in millions of illegal aliens and then having babies there. But here's the thing: it could be amended to say if your parents are illegal aliens, you're not a citizen. We could amend the amendment if we had the votes. The second thing I'm going to say, different, separate, unrelated, is imagine like practically we could fix a lot of the issue of anchor babies and all that stuff if there were actually prosecutions, deportations, actual border wall, border enforcement, where the people who come in illegally are deterred from doing so, if you know what I mean, then this issue would be fully or largely resolved if there was, the laws were actually enforced. Because right now, people, undocumented aliens are not, necessarily punished. So, like, practically speaking, there are already tools or laws in effect that could solve, I think, pretty much this whole issue.
I don't think so. I think it's going to take a constitutional amendment.
What about just enforcing the laws? Like, remember how Biden said he got to change the law, and then Trump said all we needed was a new president, not a new law or something, and he just enforced some of those laws.
Yes, I mean, if you had prosecutions, but I mean, how are you going to you can't prosecute someone for having a baby?
So real simple.
No, you just deport
you
them.
take the
Tom
child away
Homan
from
can
the
go on a
parents and you
rampage
expel the
and
parents.
We're going back to the moon, guys. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's been
Yeah, and
been a
since we
long
sat
time.
down, the sky's clouded over here, so I couldn't see.
I'm
it.
afraid of heights. I'm not going to the moon anytime soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, all right. If there are no other issues, I do want to talk about the First Amendment for a little bit. I don't know about you guys. I'm kind of a fan of the First Amendment. And our buddy James O'Keefe apparently was served while live on air a day ago or 2 days ago with a restraining order from somebody. I'm not following the case closely at all, but if Mike Proto, if you know more than I do, please go ahead and share what happened.
A little bit. I think the restraining order came from somebody that he used to be at Project Veritas with him and has apparently made threats against James O'Keefe. So this is kind of, back asswards. So
I'm-
I didn't catch exactly what happened today. I know he was reporting on it also today.
Well, he went to court, and the court upheld the emergency
The re-
order, I guess, and extended it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, he's a target. He knows he's a target, and I think he's prepared to deal with these things as they come. It's just nuts. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, part of the
But
restraining order, as I've been saying forever, and nobody cares because it doesn't affect them until it affects them, is it's standard in all 50 states pretty much for restraining orders, including ex parte, meaning zero due process. You're not there in the courtroom. You don't know about it. Part of the restraining order is you can't talk to the person or go near them or stalk them or threaten them or abuse them or harass them. But also, you lose all your guns. Wait, what? That's not related. What are you talking about, Alu? Yeah, the cops come and they physically take all your guns by force. And if you resist, they will take you to jail by force or make you not alive anymore. So James O'Keefe posted that. They stripped all of his firearms and ammunition, I believe, as part of their restraining order. He had maybe a tiny bit of due process. I guess he was at a hearing, whereas some others were not at a hearing and had all their guns taken by police. And again, I think I'm the only one in the world talking about this. What's that?
Yeah, Florida.
So how did this happen in the DeSantis land?
Number one, they have red flag
DeSantis
laws, but number
is
two, what
pretty
I've been
good.
saying forever that nobody cares about, and when I wrote Presumed Guilty, my next book, the other book, Delayed and Denied, restraining orders, they're not in the red flag law statutes. They're in the restraining order section of statutes in all 50 states. So I've looked at this in pretty much every state, except maybe Kansas. They don't allow for ex parte gun confiscation, even with restraining orders. Every other state, as part of restraining orders, they have either standard procedure, all your guns are taken, even by an ex parte order, for anything, even if the allegation is like cyber stalking. But also judges have full discretion and they can just check a box or write in the narrative, take his firearms. And every state allows for the judge to, allow for any other relief as deems necessary for the safety of the plaintiff. So it's an issue that I've raised that nobody cared, but now it happened to James O'Keefe. Hopefully people give it attention now because restraining orders are de facto red flag laws in every state.
Yeah, of course, it's unconstitutional. Just like illegal alien babies being citizens, it's unconstitutional for the same reason. Because the original intent of the Second Amendment, as well as the incorporation doctrine,
that's even more wrong than you were before, Ed. Because even if you're right about what the 14th Amendment says and means, that doesn't mean that Congress can't make those people citizens. So it's not.
No, they can mean no, they can. The Congress could pass a law and say, just like Congress could pass a law and say that gay marriage is legal. Congress could pass a law. No, it's unconstitutional what the judge is doing because there's no law that allows them to do that. And there couldn't be a law that allows them to do that. There couldn't be a law that allows them to take people's guns away without, a conviction of a crime. Well, conviction of a crime. You can lose your rights if you're convicted of a crime. You can. That's the whole point of jail. But unless you're convicted of a crime, you cannot lose your rights.
Ed M., can you explain the prior restraint part of this? Because one of the things James O'Keefe complains about is its prior restraint against his reporting.
Well, I don't know what the restraining order is about, but a prior restraint is where you get a court order preventing somebody from speaking before they speak, rather than allowing them to speak and then being able to prosecute them or sue for damages.
Okay, thanks. Maybe the judge is saying he can't talk about this person.
If you agree with what O'Keefe said, that O'Keefe published a video against this guy Tyrand, threatening to kill O'Keefe, and he shot up an image of me on the front of my book with a rifle bullet through my heart. He bragged about being an SDNY informant. The SDNY is the most corrupt part of the Justice Department, and he, tried to get a restraining order against his news organization. This is just ridiculous.
I didn't understand those facts, Ed. Can you say them again more slowly?
Well, you have to just read the paragraph that Alu has on the
One
screen.
of the guys, all right, Project Veritas was the news organization whistleblower thing, just for the listeners who don't know, that James O'Keefe, I believe, was the founder of. The board kind of pushed him out in a weird coup like a year or two ago. Now he started his own thing, James O'Keefe, O'Keefe Media Group.
O'Keefe Media Group.
Yeah. But this guy, Matt Turmand, was from Project Veritas. He's one of the guys that hates James O'Keefe.
Yeah.
Okay, so he kind of like made a threat by
It,
showing up a picture of him, posting a picture of him having shot like the picture of James O'Keefe on the book cover.
so it's O'Keefe should be filing for a restraining order
Yeah,
against
yeah.
Tirad, but they're weaponizing this unconstitutional
Are you
law.
saying the injustice system is backwards?
Well, what is
Yeah.
No way.
why is this Project Veritas? What's the basis of the Veritas guy getting a restraining order
I
against
think
the
that James
It
O'Keefe
was published.
posted. He said that this guy threatened him.
Yeah, it's not clear that there's anything there. But again, O'Keefe is not popular with this Miami judge, and
I mean, just based on what you guys are saying, that does sound like a prior restraint. I would expect that the restraining order is going to be dissolved in 10 days or less when O'Keefe gets his hearing. Unless there's something more that that's not in the story that you're reading.
Okay, and you're really going to earn your money today because I have a crazier story that you might have seen if you've been on X the last few days. A judge kind of flipped out on an IT guy for fixing his Zoom and saying false alarm, and then he kind of got upset. But apparently, this guy has a history of outbursts and even posts them himself on YouTube or Facebook or something. And pretty much the next development in the story, this obviously the internet travels fast. This is like 2 days ago. Like yesterday, I think I heard a lawyer who didn't have any pending cases before this judge. A lawyer sent an email to this judge saying he should apologize to that IT tech. And then the judge said one of the craziest things I've heard. The judge said, "That's ex parte communication, so come down for a contempt hearing because I'm holding you contempt or something." For ex parte communication, which Ed M, can you explain that and why? At least in my opinion, I think that's improper and doesn't make any sense.
Well, who was the guy that wrote to the judge?
A lawyer,
The lawyer.
unrelated, who didn't have any cases pending before the judge, but a lawyer saw this video of him treating this IT worker like crap, and he wrote a letter to the judge saying you should apologize. And the judge said you're in contempt for ex parte communication.
Ex parte communication is when there's a case before the judge and one party or one lawyer for a party contacts the judge without letting the other side know. It's an attempt, whether intentional or inadvertent, to influence the judge without giving the other side notice that you're trying to influence the judge.
But there was no case that he was communicating about. The
So then
IT guy went in.
Right. If that's the case, then I don't see how it could be an ex parte communication. I mean, ex parte means solo, like the sole party or one party. If you're not a party to any case, there's no ex parte communication. So I don't know how this, I mean, it sounds like another one of these rogue judges that's drunk on power and thinks he can do whatever he wants.
But again, who's going to stop him? He's going to say, come down here for a contempt hearing. If he doesn't go there, he'll send police to bring him. What are you going to do? Appeal it?
I mean, if you believe in due process, yes, that's what happens. You appeal things and you follow procedures.
And then somebody needs to hold the judge accountable. At some point in time, we've got to start holding judges accountable for their behavior.
Yeah, I mean, I think that John Roberts has to be the worst appointment since David Souter of a Republican president. He's funny. His alleged primary motivation is to maintain the stature and the dignity of the court, and all he's doing is destroying it in the public's eyes by allowing these rogue judges, the rogue federal judges, and this is a state judge, but you get the idea, just to completely go wild on the law and the Constitution without coming down on.
Wait, this guy who thinks he's God is a state magistrate, and he thinks he's God.
Yeah.
Well,
it's the same thing about like the Trump ballroom is in the middle of construction. Some judge decided that he has the right to halt construction. It's like, no, he doesn't.
Can we talk about standing? I think we were in our group chat or some of the group chat about standing. Who the hell has standing to sue for Trump adding a ballroom? Whether I agree or not, I think it's bad
it's
for
privately funded.
But who has standing to sue? Who's being hurt by the ballroom?
Well, I mean, obviously, Congress as a body might have standing to sue. But
I would even argue that even Congress doesn't have standing. It's a non-justiciable question because the Constitution already gives Congress tools to deal with the executive and to oversee the executive. Congress can't run to a judge and delegate its oversight of power to a court and have a court try and punish the executive. It's up to the Congress. If Congress feels like it's been wronged, Congress has tools to take care of the president. Now, in this case, I mean, the two big tools that we've discussed on this show that the Congress has are, or two of the biggest, are the power of the purse and impeachment. Now, they don't have any power of the purse power here because it's all being financed privately, which just shows how absolutely ridiculous the lawsuit is and the claim against it.
So, got to back up there because something came out the other day because somebody leaked some information. And so with the leak having occurred, Trump addressed the leak in the information. And apparently underneath this structure they're building for the ballroom is going to be a significant Department of Defense facility.
An expansion of the bunker.
Under the ballroom?
Which
Underneath,
that
yeah.
is not going to come out of private donations.
Well, I
Okay.
mean, the other thing, why say Congress as a whole might have jurisdiction is because
Standing.
Is because the DC amendment, I forget which one, gives them complete jurisdiction and rule over the DC, and
DC,
that's
does that
why.
include the White House though?
Yeah, because that's in DC. So again, I don't think it's a good idea to sue over this, and I don't think it's justiciable, but necessarily Congress has other tools, But if Congress passed a law that says no giant ballrooms can be constructed in DC without Congress's explicit approval, then I think that's justiciable. But there is no such law, so that's why it's another judicial tyranny.
It goes further because we've already tore down the old facilities. There's no recovering the old facilities. So all we're trying to do is delay what's going on construction of new.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it shows you how far they're willing to go, these judges, to thwart Trump, even on something so stupid as this.
I mean, we've all seen the memes from Babylon B, right? Trump sneezes and the judge orders that he has to take back the sneeze.
Just to amplify what Dick just said, if there's no remedy available, then that's another reason for something to be non-justiciable. If the court can't issue a remedy, there's nothing for the court to do, and the court should just dismiss the case.
Right.
Well, I mean,
they could block the construction if it's not fully constructed.
I suppose they could say build it back the same way it was. And if courts could do that, I think we should have done that with the Twin Towers in New York.
Yeah.
But
so Alu, I think the other big free speech thing this week was the Supreme Court's ruling in Childs versus Salazar. And the court basically ruled 8-1 that states
That's good news. That's optimism. No optimism allowed on the show when I'm here. Get out of here. I did have that in the show notes. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, the court ruled 8-1 that states cannot ban talk-based counseling aimed at changing a minor's sexual orientation or gender identity. There were about 20 states that had a ban on it. So it was one of these rare instances where we almost got a full majority, but of course we have that one insane person named Ketanji Jackson.
I don't think she's necessarily insane. I just don't think she's that bright. I don't think she gets the
I mean, it's just crazy when you're out there on an island and your fellow crazy leftist liberals are going in that direction, and you still can't bring yourself to do it.
I've heard that her opinion was as long as all the others combined. So shouldn't, even though it's 8-1, shouldn't?
I mean, at this point, even her
opinion should be controlling.
Her comrades on the left are probably just like sneering and whatever at her. I mean, just like, you got to be kidding me, man.
So, Mike or Ed M, do you want to give us like the facts of the case if you're familiar with it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think I just hit on it, right? There's 20 states that had a ban on what can be said by counselors. For
minors or for everyone? Is this
again, I believe it is aimed at minors.
Yeah, LGBT
aimed
minors.
At changing a minor's sexual orientation or gender identity.
So and you really have to look at her dissent on this. And I was hoping one of you would bring that up. But the case result was a counselor for minors was counseling these minors that they were in the correct body, that they were simply going through basically growing pains, if you will, through puberty. And it's normal to have emotional ups and downs and what have you. And the state ruled that that basically that is not the accepted opinion, so you can't share that information with these minors. And Jackson's dissent is really something.
Yeah. So my perspective on this, for minors, it's like a bit more complicated, but pretty much from as a free speech absolutist, and I'm going to publish my book in the next few weeks in April about free speech, a massive First Amendment book. One of the issues I talk about is this issue, so I'll reference this case update. But any therapist should be free as a free speech absolutist to say anything they want. And if parents, and if it's a minor, then it's the parent, but if it's an adult, then it's the person themselves. If they have a certain thing they don't want to do, for instance, if I don't like my behavior that I eat donuts and I want to be cured of the donut fetish, eating donuts, the obsession, I can go to a counselor and they can counsel me on, eating healthier and not eating donuts anymore, or on eating more donuts, whatever I want. It's free. I can do what I want. They can say what they want. They can say donuts are really bad for you. If I don't want to be attracted to guys or don't want to feel trans, I can go to a counselor who's Christian or whatever, or atheist, who can help me to like my own body and accept myself as the way I am, if that's what I want. To interfere, if I want to, be comfortable in my body, the counselor wants to help me with that same thing. Who the hell is the government to get involved with that and restrict free speech? And two adults, or an adult and their kid, who all agree they want a certain kind of therapy to be less depressed or less body dysmorphic.
Well, I mean, the issue is that there is this myth that both homosexuality and gender identity disorder are somehow genetic or built in at birth, and we just need to accept these people as they are. Now, as citizens of the republic, they get to do what they want, but the issue is that it is not the case that you cannot be. It's very highly unlikely, but there are many examples of people who have had their whether it's sexual orientation or gender identity disorder, not so much cured, but ameliorated to the point that they could live a normal life. So just like with gay marriage, the issue is not the issue. The issue is the revolution. To quote, Rules for Radicals. The issue is getting government acceptance and approval and celebration rather than being left alone. Now, most of the rest of us just want to be left alone. They don't want to be left alone. In fact, they want to be accepted and celebrated and pushed to the forward and have, pride flags and trans flags and everything flying from every school. And that is the actual issue, because it's extremely difficult. It's like, curing alcoholism. That's impossible. That's like less than 20% of alcoholics can be cured by, or not cured, but ameliorated by 12-step program. It's even less for things like homosexuality and gender identity disorder, but it's not zero. And the fact that it's not zero is the thing that they're trying to cover up.
Let me ask you this, Alu, as a free speech absolutist.
Yes, sir.
You're a paramedic.
Yes, sir.
Suppose that you get somebody in your ambulance who's been hurt and injured, and they ask you, what should I take? What medicine should I take? And you decide to play games with them and offer them something poison or something that'll kill them. Should you have the right to say that?
I think I addressed this in my book, so everyone listening should buy my book and support me in a few weeks when I publish it. I think I'm a free speech absolutist. Number one, two things. The Constitution says free speech, can't be restricted. Congress shall make no freaking law. That's what it says. That being
Congress
said,
shall make
I
no
think
law. It doesn't talk about the states, but go ahead.
well, once it was incorporated, the same thing counts. So anyway, but I think that's a separate, tort or criminal, law for
But that's
assault,
that's
fraud.
the
I
issue
think
in this
those.
case.
What's
I
that?
mean, that's the issue in this case, that people are saying that the therapists are causing harm. Now, I don't agree with them, but that's the argument, that the therapist is causing harm with their speech, and therefore it's proper to regulate it.
Yeah, and I would argue it's free speech. I think I wouldn't categorically say that the issue as far as like a lawsuit or a crime of fraud, deception, assault, battery,
But you're not committing fraud when you're in that ambulance. You're not taking any property. You're not getting any money. You're not benefiting. You're just, laughing hysterically that this person relied
if I
on you.
recommend something harmful to them, like a poison, yeah, I don't know if sorry, the legal thing is not fraud, but it would be misrepresentation of something that led to harm,
Right.
like
And I mean, again, I'm not on the side of the trans people on this, but the trans people would say that you're that people who are trans should be able to stay trans, and
Yep.
that a therapist shouldn't be allowed to try and talk them out of
Yep.
who they really are.
Yep, that is what they would say. And again, and that's the only solution ultimately, which I say at the end of this book, like every book, is secession, because we're living in different worlds. They would say if you tell them they shouldn't be trans or try to convert them back to being cis or straight, heterosexual, you're harming them. You're hurting them, and that's real harm, and therefore you should be punished criminally and civilly. And again, we're living in different universes. That's why we have to separate, because we're polar opposites. I would think a therapist who convinces a 6-year-old to transgender themselves with surgery is harming them. The left says the polar opposite. If you tell any 6-year-old they should be straight because they believe pretty much every 6-year-old is trans, at heart, then they're harming them. So we both think polar opposites. Again, similar to religion. Christians would say if you raise your kid atheist, you're hurting them so badly it's severe child abuse. Atheists might say Christians who raise their kid Christian and believing in God, it's severe child abuse. It's hard. You can't share a world with those kinds of people.
I don't know. I don't think anybody knows what the framers would say, but my guess is they would say, if they could see this situation, that it should be a federalism issue, and state A should be allowed to ban that kind of speech, and state B should be allowed to allow that kind of speech.
Of course. And I said years ago, and again, I don't know if anyone agrees. I said the federalism ship has sailed years ago, decades ago, with the 14th Amendment and a lot of other stuff, and centralization of power, the supremacy clause. Mm-hmm. There is no federalism anymore. Very, very little, essentially none. We can try again, but it's hard to go back. You have to go fully cut ties with secession.
It exists, but not to the extent
barely
that it's supposed to.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd argue that it exists
we talked
quite
about
a lot.
Yeah, I know. Ed makes the case all the time. The left uses federalism to their advantage when they want to. So
the left uses it sometimes, but
it's not. And honestly, we should be prepared from this birthright citizenship case that every red state should be on board with a constitutional amendment to fix it.
Good luck with that. That'll be the biggest constitutional crisis in a billion lawsuits. And every federal judge will be.
What do you mean lawsuit? Why the states can't push for a constitutional amendment?
Every federal judge will kick everyone's ass with injunctions all day, every day. That would be crazy.
Well, and the Republicans in Congress should be prepared to pass it and send it to the states.
There have been constitutional amendments passed, most notably in California, that judges have ruled unconstitutional. So, I mean, if you think our own federal judiciary won't be up for that kind of game, you are wrong. I mean, Bukele turned El Salvador from the worst country in all of the Americas to the best country in all of the Americas by one thing and one thing only: getting rid of corrupt judges. And unless we can figure out a way to do that, the United States is still heading downhill.
Well, there's a way to do it. Now we got to find a lawful way to do it.
Well, but also, getting back to what I said earlier in the show, right now we've got almost an even split. We've got a 53-47 Senate, and we've got a 218-16 in the House, something like that. The Republicans are going to need to win some elections. And when they win some elections, then they can enact policy changes.
Well, to win elections, they have to do something for the American people.
You need a super majority, at least in the Senate, to do that. You need that 60. And you need to hold them all together.
I think they can
Otherwise,
get
it's
to
not going to
60
happen.
in another cycle. I don't think they can get there this year, but
Yeah.
if they have a good midterm and then a good 28, they could get to 60. But for a constitutional amendment, you only need 13 states to veto it, and I'm not sure that there's 38 states that would endorse that amendment, Mike. As much
There
as I
is
Yeah.
not
Well, I mean,
38
but
states to
like,
get any
okay.
amendment through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely a very high hurdle. But
You know,
that doesn't mean you don't try and you don't make the argument.
agree
speaking of
100%.
speaking of losing 10 Senate seats this year, President Trump has decided that he is going to address the nation tonight on the war in Iran. And
Yep.
I wanted to ask
We gonna fight
every
again?
well, no, I mean, I think the war is a catastrophe. You guys don't, but I wanted to ask what you think he's going to say, and I think there are real three possibilities. He's going to, one, declare victory and say we're going home. Two, we're going to land the Marines and take this war onto the ground. Or three, something in the middle of like, we're still negotiating and we hope to get this war, or, something mushy in the middle. And I tend to think that it's going to be the second one, that we're going to land Marines and take the war onto the ground. But what do you guys think he's going to say? And then we can get back together next week and see who's right.
Ambiguous, mushy in the
He's
middle.
been declaring victory since it started. So that's
Well, it's a
nothing new.
national address. It's something different. What do you think?
I
So
don't
Mike,
think that he's going to be willing to put boots on the ground. I think if you have Marines on those islands, even if we take it, they're going to be easy targets. And that means dead Americans. And I don't think Trump is going to have the stomach for that. So
I
I don't see that part of it
I
happening.
think boots on the ground in Iran will not be popular with Americans.
I don't
That's
think
just
it's
me.
going to happen.
Well, of course, it's not going to be popular. I'm just going to say, I'm asking, what do you think he's going to say?
I I think he's going to say that we've been negotiating with the Iranians. Well, let me take a step back. Up until this morning, this is what I thought he was going to say, because this morning he did put out a Truth Social post saying that he's negotiating with this more reasonable wing of the Iranian government, and maybe they're going to try and get a ceasefire. But I think that ultimately he's going to. I think he's going to say that we're negotiating with them, but the real stumbling block is that they have to be willing to give us the plutonium, the enriched plutonium, and they're not.
Uranium.
Huh? What?
Uranium. Enriched
Sorry.
uranium.
Uranium. Right. Sorry.
Mhm.
And that we can't leave it to chance for them to have it. And the only way to make sure that we remove it is to send in some limited special forces to obtain that uranium and make sure that the Iranians don't have any material to get a nuclear bomb, and that we're going to be sending in, that if they don't capitulate in 48 hours after their Sabbath ends on Friday, that's going to be his deadline, and he's gonna look to move this weekend to send troops in. My guess is he's also going to take Karg Island and try and take the oil and use the oil to repay us for what we've spent on this military adventure. That's what I think he's going to say.
You mentioned negotiating with leaders. Are there leaders to be negotiated with? I think Ed Powell or someone in the last few weeks has said if
Yeah.
we run them out or kill them or whatever, and there's no one
Well,
to
every
negotiate
time we've
with, then
tried to
it's like,
negotiate with an Iranian leader, we've killed them. So, I mean, I don't know who's I don't know who's
I don't know who we're
is there a
negotiating
current
with him.
president or
I
someone
know
at
who's
least to kind of
foolish enough
negotiate
to
with?
negotiate with them.
I don't know.
I'm just reporting what his Truth Social said. I
Yeah.
I think that he's going to lead the American people. He's going to brace the American people for the reality that he's going to send some limited forces in. That's going to be a short-term operation. That the purpose is to get the uranium and to secure the oil fields, and that they're only going to be there for a short period of time to
Well,
neutralize the threat. That's what I
it,
think.
I mean, if he says that, then he's got no choice but to live up to it.
And he will. I mean, he's lived up to
Yeah.
his threats so
But
far.
ultimately, the issue is what it really is victory. And is victory just decimating them and taking their uranium and just saying,
Taking the
okay,
uranium and getting the oil.
see
That's
ya.
what victory is.
But remnants of the regime are still in place to one day become, a bigger threat again.
I mean, Dick is the military guy, so I think Dick should address that more generally. But superficially, I think that if we take the oil and cut off, I mean, the Iranian economy is already in collapse and free fall right now. And I think that if we take Karg Island and secure the control of the oil fields, I don't see how the regime can survive. They're already not
But
paying the
are you?
Iranian. They're already not paying the IRGC. There's apparently already desertions, and I think the regime is going to collapse. That's what I
I
think.
mean, are you not concerned that if we take Karg Island, that our troops will then be an easy target there?
Um, I, I'm talking out of my ass because I'm not a military guy, but as a civilian, I just trust that Trump is not going to be putting troops in that kind of harm's way.
I don't know.
That's what I think.
That seems like harm's way to me, taking that island and trying to
That seems
keep
like
it.
what?
That seems like harm's way to me. Number one, just attempting to take it, and then permanently like controlling it. Dick, what do you say?
No, what I think is going to happen is he's going to start out and give us a rundown of the thousands of flights that we've conducted. In the thousands, I don't know what we're up to now, 13,000 targets down the list that we've taken out. And they all saw the big one where they hit what I think was a missile bunker, just based on the types of secondary explosions we saw out of that stuff flying off. Then he's going to go on to where, he's going to talk about the negotiations that are going on with Rubio and other folks in his administration. He wants to end it without boots on the ground. Now, let's understand boots on the ground. We're not talking boots on the ground as far as war. You're talking about tens of thousands. That's boots on the ground. So what do we talk about? Well, likely, I think, come this weekend, if we haven't gotten to agreement, we'll put troops on Karg Island.
Yep.
Just to take the oil sales away from them.
Yep.
Karg Island is really far north in the Persian Gulf.
Yes,
and
it
it's
is.
really close to the mainland, and it's within artillery range of.
I understand that.
I wouldn't want to go there without having complete air supremacy over the surrounding, say, 20 or 30 miles in the mainland.
We have complete air supremacy.
Well, why are missiles continuing to come down on our troops in various areas of missiles and drones?
Well, I guess you need to understand what air supremacy is. We control the air. That doesn't mean that they can't launch something into the air. But if they
I don't think we control the air. I think they still have man pads and other relatively effective, say up to 15,000 feet anti-aircraft missiles that prevent us from doing things like hunting down and destroying camouflaged artillery pieces, which is what we really need.
We are bringing in A-10s and Apache helicopters now to hit targets. We don't do that if we don't control the air. Now, can somebody be out running around with a man pad? Sure. Can
What's
they
a
have
man pad?
Of medium range missiles out there? Sure. But that isn't control of the skies. We control the skies.
A man pad is a man portable air defense, like a Stinger missile.
Stinger, Red Eye, of course, Red Eyes are pretty much all gone, several others. Most of them heat seeking. I think there's a couple newer ones that bring in some type of radar seeking. Yeah. Most of them are heat seeking, short range missiles. The other one I was trying to think of the name of the island there, William, up in the strait, right there at the strait.
Yeah.
is
There's
another
two
one.
smaller islands there, I believe.
So my guess would be the 82nd on Carg Island and the Marines on the other one there, on Quinn, by the strait.
How do you even get? How do you even
To me,
get the Marines on Kesh Island when you can't? When they, I mean, are they going to force the strait like at Gallipoli? I mean, is that the plan? Is to send these, amphibious landing ships up the strait to take that island, like
Yes.
the British did in World War One?
Well, we're way past World War One.
To me, these are high risk efforts.
It's very high risk.
That
It's very high risk.
and it's high risk politically because if you start having dead Marines, right now we have suffered very, very little, but in this particular case, we start going after these islands. We have to brace ourselves for more casualties, and I think that's not good for him.
All I'll say over that is it's true it's high risk. It's true that the American people don't like casualties in war, but it's also high reward because if there's one thing Americans love, it's a winner. And
Okay,
I
so
think that he's, huh?
I was going to say there's more to it. But go ahead.
Right. The American people like a winner, and I see him winning this battle. Trump is not the kind of person that's the thing. He doesn't do things that are risky. You might think it's taking a risk or taking a chance. He only goes in if he thinks and knows he's going to win. That's the way he is.
Well, I think he's done risky things. The tariffs have been a risky thing in a sense, and this has been a risk as well.
Well, I mean, I think
certainly.
he's wrong. I think he went in thinking that the decapitation strike and taking out some of their missiles was going to get them to negotiate or surrender within a few days. And it's now been 5 weeks and they're not surrendering. So let's be honest. He took that risk and lost. And what he's trying to do is salvage something out of this.
Right.
Because the whole regime change thing ain't going to happen.
You keep saying he's lost.
We are not going to achieve
how do you rack that up a loss?
We are not
there's a
going to
difference
achieve
between
our
a prediction and what's happened. You may predict that he's going to lose, but there's no evidence that we've already lost.
I think what we want, again, what we want is a stable, semi-democratic, Western-friendly government in Iran. That is our primary strategic objective. And guess what? We ain't going to get that. So, yes, we've lost.
I think there's something to be said about what we have accomplished at this point, and we have really degraded them significantly. To me, the outstanding question is the regime, and what happens there, and if the Iranian people rise up or not, and if they do rise up again eventually down the road to continue to be a threat and a menace to the region and to us. That I don't know the answer. I don't think we know what's going to happen there. I think that the NATO thing is interesting. I wanted to turn back to that for a second because I love the way he's challenging NATO. I don't blame the NATO countries in a sense. I don't think it's the purpose of NATO to go help us fight an offensive war in Iran. But that being said, anything that potentially blows up that alliance is fine with me. And the bottom line is that alliance was built on, a cohesive set of values that we shared with Western Europe. That is now gone. And we know that the UK, France, all these countries are being conquered by Muslims and Islam. And ultimately, it's in our interest to align ourselves with countries that do share our values and do embrace freedom. That should be our goal. And I think NATO is at the point where it's lived past its usefulness in a lot of ways. So
well, I mean, Spain
I
is
can only
going to
hope that NATO is blown up.
Spain is going to legalize like 1 million African migrants to further cement the left in power in Spain forever. In a what Churchill said is feeding the crocodile in hopes that they'll be eaten last. And they prevented any American planes from using the bases in their country to support this war. Now, again, I don't support the war, and I am definitely not in favor of it. But on the other hand, Spain is basically blowing up NATO by doing that. And similarly, France has closed our airspace. Now, why is Spain doing it? And why is France doing it? And why did the UK start to do it, but then kind of change? And that's because, yeah, they have been conquered by Muslims. Now, Sunni Muslims, but again, it's what's that Jewish slogan, Alu, that you said? Me against my brother and I against my cousin, and my cousin and my brother and I against the world. Isn't that that was something Steve once said? But it's like, but that's kind of like the Muslim. That's the whole Middle Eastern thing. It's like, yeah, they're Shia and we're Sunni. The colonists in Europe are Sunni, but like they don't care. It's like me and my cousin against the infidel. So. So I think, yeah, I think they're doing it. These NATO nations are doing it to try to show solidarity with the people who could go onto the street and burn their cities down, and do many times. And I what we can do about that, right? I mean, again, regime change in some of these countries is much more important to American future than regime change in Iran. But
Indeed.
Cool. Can we start wrapping up final rounds? Anybody missed a chance to get anything they really wanted to mention?
Well, I was just say on this NATO bit there, when we had just Spain denying us access to airspace and bases, I was in the camp of Trump needs to go to NATO, summon NATO, deliver a morning speech that either Spain is out of NATO by 4 o'clock this afternoon, or the United States is out. Having had what's happened the last couple of days with Italy, France, and the United Kingdom, I think it is time for Trump to send his NATO secretary over and let NATO know that the United States is withdrawing from NATO, that NATO can defend themselves, or Europe can defend themselves, and then we can look at other alliances with countries like Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Finland, that are actually spending and interested in defending themselves. But we have been propping up over 60% of the bill for NATO for roughly 80 years now. And it's time for NATO to start carrying their own weight.
And like Trump said, they can go get their own oil too.
Absolutely. We don't need that oil out of the Persian Gulf. Let them go get their own.
Go get it.
And you know what? As I've said a couple times today and in last week's show, I think one of the end goals of the Iran situation is that Trump wants to have a peace dividend to bring the troops in the Middle East home. I think that he also wants to bring some of the troops from Europe home, and again, stop spending money on foreign deployments and keep that money here in the United States. So I think that's going to happen, and it's going to be a good thing.
Mike, any final words?
Nope.
Ed P, any final words?
We're going back to the moon, guys. This is important. And yeah, the whole Artemis program is screwed up, but like, let's take a moment to celebrate the United States going back to the moon.
Amen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do you call that little thing at the bottom of the news screen?
Ticker?
Chiron.
Chiron? Yeah. Well, the title of that one is "Subject to Jurisdiction" in quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh God, already litigated in the past. Ed M, any final words?
Just happy Passover and happy Easter to everybody.
Happy
Stephen, we miss
300th.
you, and we look forward to seeing you when you come back.
Indeed.
Yeah, happy 300 to everyone. Happy Pesach for those who celebrate. Happy Easter and everything else. Thank you very much for listening. You guys can email comments or complaints, especially, to alu@libertyblocks.com or info@libertyblocks.com. They should all go to the same address. Thank you very much to you all. I always appreciate the high energy and great intellectual debate. And thank you so much. I'll see you all next week and have a great night.